when we start with fractions, common fractions in grade 7, there's certain things we need to know. For example, what's the difference between a common fraction and a decimal fraction? We're going to look at that, and the next topic that you're also going to work with is decimal fractions, so you need to know the difference. And to be able to do the fractions of this year, I'm going to take you back to last year's work. Okay, there's certain things you need to know first, and that is what a common fraction looks like. It's a numerator over a denominator, and the line in between means it's a division taking place. Okay, the numerator is usually the part that you colored or didn't color, and the denominator was the part that you divided the unit or the whole into. So the denominator is actually going to tell you what kind of fraction it is. And last year you did quarters and fifths and tenths. Okay, now to identify the different ones, we get a proper fraction, and I'm just going to give you an example of each one. Proper fraction is where your numerator is smaller than your denominator. Okay, the improper fraction is where your numerator was bigger than your denominator. And then the mixed number is usually a number, so for example 2 and a quarter. Okay, that means it's a number or a unit, and it's combined with a fraction. Okay, now one of the parts that you usually struggled with was the writing of an improper fraction to a mixed number and the mixed number to an improper fraction. Now I'm just going to show you by making sketches that what is the difference between an improper fraction converted to a mixed number and the other way around. Actually, it's just a way of writing it. So if you look at this fractions and compare to the mixed number fractions, okay, we are going to look at how we are going to write the improper fraction. First of all, you must know the units. Each one of these blocks is a unit, and how many equal parts it's divided into, and how many is colored. So if you look at this unit, it's got 4 equal parts, and 4 of them are colored. Same with this one, same equal parts, and only 3 of them are colored. So I'm going to count how many is colored. First of all, we're going to write the denominator, and that was fourth, a fourth or quarters, and how many was colored. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quarters were colored. Okay, now if we look at the mixed number, I'm going to use exactly the same sketches or the same fractions, and I'm just going to write it as units. So I'm going to see how many units I can take out and how many fractions are left. So if I have 4 quarters, I'm going to write it as 4 quarters, and then the fraction that's left is 1, 2, 3 quarters. So if I add them, having 4 quarters, it's actually a unit or 1, and then the 3 quarters I just write next to the 1. That's a unit, so it's going to be 1 and 3 quarters. So if you look at the difference, it's only the way of writing it. So here it's only fractions, and there it's a mixed number, a unit, with the fraction that's left. Now, a very important part of fractions is having a unit. And you, last year, when you did units or a whole, sometimes you called it a whole, is also the way of writing it. Very important, and you'll see it when we do the simplifying of fractions, how we can write the unit or the 1 as. Okay, if you look at the sketch or just the unit that I divided into 4 equal parts, and I colored 4 of them. So the way I'm going to write that to show it's a unit, it's 4 over 4, or 4 quarters, and then it's equals to 1, or 1 unit. Okay, now if you look at 27 over 27, or 27 27ths, then it's also a unit. So to identify a unit, you must look at the numerator and the denominator that's exactly the same. So if you see that, you can write it as a whole or 1. And because we are getting older and so on, we are going to start using variables. So a variable is an alphabet letter, and I'm going to do exactly the same so that you can see it doesn't matter by age or by grade, it's still the same thing that you are basically going to look for. So if my numerator and my denominator is exactly the same, my answer will be a 1. Then if you grow even older, you are going to use the square root of an x in the square root of an x. And again, if my numerator and my denominator is exactly the same, my answer will be 1. Okay, then if you, for example, go to grade 11, you're going to have x plus 1 over the square root of x plus 1. Okay, again, if my numerator and my denominator is exactly the same, then I'm going to have 1 or 1 unit.